So welcome to Walsall United WFC.
Hi guys, Natalie here, Walsall United. I'm here with Rich, I'm here with Suzy, I'm here with DM. We're going to be talking FA Cup, equal FA Cup. If you've seen it on our socials, if you've seen it on my social personally, seen it on the Women's Football Fan Collective social, journalists tweeting it, you know, it's all blown up today. Everyone's talking about it, but we want that because this is the FA Cup weekend and, you know, we want an equal FA Cup. We want it to be, you know, people got a bit twisted about the idea, but, you know, I love the FA Cup. That's what we want it to be. We want everyone to love it, and we want, you know, people to have that dream of going to Wembley and not feel like they can't do it. So listen, let me just come to everyone. Rich, talk to us. How are you? Thanks for coming back on.
Oh, thanks for having us, Nat. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, just come back from the gym, so I'm feeling all sporty myself. Don't know whether fit would describe me, but certainly, I'm giving it a go. It's been an interesting day, hasn't it, in terms of getting it out there, and obviously people are going to have different views about like what we mean by equal FA Cup, and I think that's hopefully one of the things that we'll be able to discuss, because I don't think we all agree entirely upon exactly what that means, but I think this is opening up a really interesting conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, conversations need to be had now. Suzy, thank you for coming on. I just want to, you know, try to get you on a couple of times, but you're here now. Thank you.
Finally made it.
Yeah.
Took me long enough.
Yeah, and I've got a special guest tonight, DM. DM, I don't think you've ever been on All for United. Is this your debut?
It certainly is, yeah. So thanks for having me, and it's great to be here on a topic that I feel really passionate about, and I'm really excited to talk about this with you all. Thanks for having me.
Cool, because obviously that's what we want. We want passionate people. I'm passionate about it, and you know, today, Tuesday, the Women's Football Fan, we put out a press release. DM, you basically are the master behind it. Just talk to me about that press release, because I'm for it. I'm for fans doing things together as a collective. That's what the Women's Football Fan Collective, and we'll come to you, Rich, about that as well. And I'm for, you know, we're all going to sing, hopefully, at every game. You know, I'm going to be at Villa on Saturday, Villa Chelsea, and then I'm going to be at Man United, Bridgewater, and I'll be singing it on 51st and the 71st at both games. So I hope other people that are at those games join in. But, you know, talk to us. Why equal FA Cup? Why those minutes? Just tell the people that are listening.
Yeah, so the idea of singing it on the 51st minute is that it's 51 years since the FA Cup started up again from 1971, and 1971 is 71 minutes is the year in which the ban on women's football was lifted, on the FA's ban on women's football. So symbolically, they mean something, and they're just a point in time in which fans can come together and hopefully raise a collective voice across the different teams. You know, it's quite rare to have fans singing together, and it's quite rare to have fans singing at all sometimes at women's football games. So to be able to offer an opportunity for us to raise our voices together and at these very symbolic moments and demand the chant goes, no ifs, no buts, we want an equal FA Cup. And it's, you know, it's a kind of classic protest chant, and the possibility to repeat it as well. And of course, it's not just this game, it's not just the fourth round. You know, we could sing this at every single round, and until we get equal prize money, or, you know, equal and a quality of resource for the FA Cup that uplifts the whole of the women's game and the whole of the pyramid as well. So that's the point in it, and it's a clear statement of intent as well. So yeah, that's the reasoning behind the 51 and 71.
Yeah, go on, Rich.
So, like, obviously, we started what was originally the Women's Championship Fan Collective a month and a day ago. So it was on Christmas Eve, after the day after Coventry. It was announced that Coventry were going into liquidation, as just a a bit of a howl of kind of protest about the state of football outside of the WSL. Obviously, I'm a Sunderland fan, and we've suffered more than once from being demoted without footballing merit because of license conditions. So we know what it's like to suffer. We know what it's like to almost lose our club. We know what it's like to lose all of our players. And so I got together with Paul from Coventry United, the commentator. We then quickly pulled in people like yourself, Nat, and DM from who follow other clubs, and we've pulled together a really fantastic bunch of people. And quickly we were discussing really what, if we're going to campaign, we're not a traditional fan group. We're not the Football Supporters Association. We're a campaign group. We want change. We don't want to be nice to everyone all the time. We want to kind of get under people's skin and up people's noses a little bit, and demand things that maybe those who have to sit down around the table with the FA and the clubs might not demand. Because they've got to establish those working relationships. Maybe we're kind of like the vanguard. I don't know, that kind of wedge to open up conversations. And one of the points we came out with was around equalising the prize money in the FA Cup, because this has been something that Lewis. Obviously, we've got Ash, the Ruckmeister from Lewis, who are pioneering. We love Lewis, and like they inspire me every day in what we're doing. And they a couple of years ago now had their FA Cup, their For All Cup campaign. And this is really just an evolution of that. It's the idea that there is a pot of money available. There's one organisation running this competition for the men and the women. They pay the international footballers equally. It's a non-profit organisation, the FA. It has a responsibility and strategies to develop grassroots football, develop women's football. And it has a pot of money that is given out in prize money, and that can be reallocated, not just equally across men's and women's football, but more equally across the rounds. I think that there was an interesting stat in the original video that Lewis put out, that the vast majority of the prize money in the FA Cup, of all of the FA Cup pot for both men's and women's, goes in the men's quarter-final, semi-final and final. And that almost exclusively goes to Premier League football clubs who don't need 14, 15 million quid split between them. That is 2/3 of a mediocre Burnley striker, essentially. So for me, it's not necessarily about kind of immediately, but it's about moving the conversation on. And yes, that's what we want to do.
Yeah. And being
that's
really,
why I think
no, just saying, and just being really firm about it, and just saying, no ifs, no buts, because whenever you say we want equal pay or we want equal prize money, there's always like but that would never work, or we need to do this and that. And like sometimes you just need to say absolutely firmly, we want something, and because it's the right thing, because it's about values, how an organization values women's football. So, and I think if you put that mark in the sand, that line in the sand, then it hopefully, that firm position, it gives, a position for people to bounce off. So, yeah, sorry.
No, I just think that this is exactly what it's all about. I think this is why I sort of got involved in the first place, Rich, because like you say, we're not sitting around the table doing this, have to be mithered about that, have to watch what we say. We want this. Why aren't we getting it? There's no kind of, like you say, no ifs, no buts. We're here to push for that change. And like you said, we're not the FSA. We're not doing it different. And I think that's sort of probably why I ended up sort of getting involved, because it is just a case of sitting there talking, having those discussions straight away. This needs to change. This isn't good enough. And it's all right, sort of, well, and eventually, no, we need it now. And like you say, it's not, it's about just, people might say this and that, but like you said then about the majority go to the quarterfinals, semi-finals and final. And part of me thinks back to Man United didn't play in the FA Cup all them many years ago. Is that the fair that if we don't pay these big Man United, Chelsea, they'll go and join another cup. Look at what just happened with the European Super League. So that's obviously on their minds. You're telling me that's dead in the water? Of course it's not. So they're looking for things like that, and we're just trying to appease. That's all the FA, that's all it is, appeasing. So let's put some money, let's make it right, because it's not right at the minute. I just want to bring Suzy in because you've heard from all of us. I can tell you're jumping, Rich. I can tell.
No,
come back.
I'm really interested to hear what Suzy thinks, actually, because Suzy's been around this subject for so long and spoken to all the people involved, I'm sure. So I'm just interested, like, in your perspective.
Oh no, I completely agree with you guys. The FA is not for profit body. Why is it being discriminatory in the way it hands out money, particularly when it's the haves that are getting the bigger slice of their pie? If anything, if you think about the historic injustice of the FA banning football and the very, very slow uptake, even when the ban was lifted, on actually properly supporting it, if anything, it should be shifted the other way. My argument, to all the people that say, oh yeah, no, we can't quite, equal's not quite right, the men's game brings in more. Why does the men's game bring in more? It didn't just spring out of nowhere. It's because it was invested in properly. I was chatting to Moya Dodd recently when she was over in England around the time of the FA Cup final, actually, and she actually used an analogy that I really liked. It's like saying to, imagine vanilla ice cream is the only ice cream that has ever existed, and the company that makes vanilla ice cream has someone come to them and say, look, I've got this, one of their creators comes up, I've got this chocolate ice cream, right? It's really exciting, it tastes amazing, it's going to be really huge. What do you do if you're an executive for the vanilla ice cream maker? Do you taste it and go, oh, actually, this could be huge, but we're not going to put any money into it. We're just going to let it poodle along and see how it grows by itself. No, you're going to throw money at it. You're going to promote it. You're going to stick it everywhere. You're going to overinvest in it to build it up to the level of vanilla ice cream. You're going to see that we've got this market of all these people that love vanilla ice cream, but there's this whole other pot of people who like vanilla ice cream but could like this too, but also who don't like vanilla ice cream that could be brought into our orbit, and we're going to go all out to bring them into our fold as a business. Like, it's just logical that you would want to build and grow women's football. And how do you do it? You invest in it. No, like the basic rules of the, like, I'm no economics expert, but the basic rule of business, right, is like you have to invest in something for it to grow. No business or very few businesses make profits very early on in their existence, right? It takes time to turn a profit on a business. Like, it's extremely rare for a profit to for a business to turn a profit in its first year, for example. Like, you have to invest in it for it to grow. And so the idea that you wouldn't invest in women's football and you would just expect it to grow organically without investment is absolutely mad, because you do that in any other part of the world. And like, that for me is what like exposes the fact that this is sexism, just out and out misogyny and sexism that is behind, even if it's not conscious, but is the underlying principle and a mindset behind the reasons not to do this, because there is no reason. It's completely illogical to like every other aspect of society. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'd say, like, if anything, go further. Let's give the women's game 75% of the pot and men's 25% of the pot. The men's teams don't need it. Maybe the ones at the very, very bottom do, but the ones at the top don't. How about we work that out? We say, actually, it's going to be given, like, the FA Cup prize money is going to be distributed to teams based on their income and expenditure and how much they need it, like on a for need basis, rather than on a you've finished this high up the pyramid. How about we chuck the majority of the prize pot on the men's game at the clubs that enter it from the very, very start, and flip it? Why not? So that's, if you're going to do that, do women's as well. So that's my 2 cents. Like, I'm burn it all down and start again and rebuild it from the bottom.
Totally. And what you're saying, it's not just about investment, is it? It's about not investing in something. It's about structurally disadvantaging a complete sector of the sport of women's football. And that's what you're continuing to do. If you're forcing women to compete in these competitions, but giving them these measly pots of money as pay, essentially, in compensation for their work. It's really insulting. And I agree. I think this is the thing about equal FA Cup. What does equal FA Cup mean? It's also an expansive conversation. It's not just about necessarily, we could just say, like, let's take the prize money and split it in half and make it equal. We have to think about what it actually means to have equality and what it would mean to support equality financially between men and women's football. So yeah, it's potentially a very expansive conversation, and yeah, we're having it.
Yeah, it's definitely expansive, and I'm not saying, and I know people will look at it straight away and they're going to shut it down. Like you say, DM, it's about no ifs, no buts. But even if they do, and even if we don't give the women £1 million for winning it, what really grates me about the FA Cup in the women's is the fact that, I look at a team like Clapton, who travelled away for all their first rounds. They're tier 7, so that that's the lowest tier in women's football, and they got all the way to the round 3, and round 4, when the WSL, the big Premier, I'm a Man United fan, so I know, Man United are going down to Bridgewater, but they can sort of apply for any kind of funding. I don't know if they are. I'm not saying that, but they can sort of get their travel covered and all that kind of thing. Man United don't need their travel covered, but Bridgewater, if they're, Bridgewater or Clapton, that's the kind of time, that's the time when the FA should be supporting and ensuring that a Clapton can go on, can have that dream. Instead of Clapton are having to do GoFundMe pages to make sure they can get to the third round. For me, that doesn't make sense. It's not just Man United, it's Chelsea as well. It's all the things, and I feel like women's football pyramid is geared towards the top. It's about the WSL, and that's what the championship thing was about. I love the championship. Championship is one of my favourite leagues. I know me and you, Rich, we had that conversation about Man United coming in, but that's why I love it, because I've lived it, But it's geared towards the WSL, isn't it? A lot of women's football. I mean, we've even had Tom Gary on. He says he just really covers the WSL. Not a lot cover the championship. Starting to grow a bit, the championship. But then even if you look down, National League's not covered. And that's what we want readdressing as well. We want that readdressing, not just in the FA Cup, but just in the whole thing. Go on, Rich.
I think like for clubs like Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, anyone who's in the Premier League, basically, the expenses of taking part in the Women's FA Cup are negligible, really. For a club like I support, Sunderland, probably similar, even though we're League One, we've got revenues of in the tens of millions of pounds, because we've got one of the biggest fan bases in the country. We got 32,000 through the gates in the men's game, and we're in tier 3. And so, for us, I think it's about sending a signal to our board, actually, that this is serious. So this campaign works on different levels for different clubs. For a club like Clapton, it's about actually being able to play and having the resources to be able to play. For a club like Sunderland, it's making it worth their while to invest. What we need at Sunderland is really for the board to take it seriously, and they've taken it kind of seriously. They put the application in, and they like to tell us that they put the application in and they had to do it very quickly. But for me, that suggests that they didn't quite realise they had a women's team when they took over the club, for a start. And that was a year ago. I mean, I've had long arguments again with my fellow Sunderland fans on our Lasses pod last night about, am I too impatient? Should we, slow down? Are we trying to run before we can walk? But for me, it's about a club like Sunderland taking women's football kind of really, really seriously. And I think you can send that message through a campaign like this. If the football authorities, if the Football Association indicates to the clubs that are its members that their women's sections are as important in its premier competition, the oldest competition in the world, the FA Challenge Cup. And if you look at the official name of the Women's FA Cup, it's the FA Women's Challenge Cup. You know, it's got that tradition behind it. That is essentially the women's version of that original trophy back in the day. And I really think it could give, like that prestige back to the FA Cup as well. And demonstrate that the FA is actually kind of serious about its strategy. Because if there's money on offer, and I keep going on about this, banging on about the fact that if there is money on offer to clubs the size of, say, a Sunderland or a Watford or a Crystal Palace or a Bristol City like DM supports, their boards will take it more seriously. You know, for your Man United, Liverpool's, Arsenal's, it's about the brand globally. And it hopefully will be part about our brand globally as well when we're back up in the Premier League. But for now, it's about our club kind of demonstrating that this is a serious and an integral part of the future of their business. And I think the FA can send that money. You know what? I see it at a club like Bristol. For me, from the outside, it feels like Bristol, in some ways, do kind of see it as an integral part of their brand. I know, DM, you've mentioned that before, haven't
you? What do you mean, the women's
women's section? And I don't know what you feel about that idea of like this kind of campaign could like help to build that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think having more opportunities for, you know, revenue generation that kind of organically arises from the competitive activities that are happening on the pitch is a good thing, because you're actually paying the players and the club for the work that they're doing. And, you know, you're replicating that possibility in reflection of the same competition that the same work that men are doing. I'm an old school feminist. I'm equal pay for equal work, or equal pay for work of equal value. You know, for me, the FA Cup is the FA Cup. So I think, you know, the more opportunities for clubs to be autonomous, to be self-sustaining, you know, they will never be the women's football will never be financially viable unless there are genuine opportunities for revenue generation. So I think I just think it's really vital that all of those avenues for fairness are available. And I agree with you completely, Rich. I think the boards of these clubs will take it more seriously if they see the FA Cup as a potential pot of money that's coming through, rather than a burden or even a philanthropic gesture. Like this weekend, we're playing Southampton, we're playing at St Mary's. It costs, do you know what the ticket prices are? £3 for adults. You know, well, that's cheap. Yeah, I'm really happy I'm in this world today. You know, there's not many things that are cheap, but I tell you what, women's football is cheap. It costs nothing for the kids. How on earth can, you know, women's football be financially sustainable when tickets are £3? I mean, I appreciate Southampton for the gesture, but I want to pay more as well for women's football. You know, it devalues the product when we have that situation. So I think it can't be this, you know, this loss leader, this way of, you know, maybe it can be an accounting line that, like, women's football can be an accounting line about environmental, social and governance responsibility. Maybe that is a way of accounting for the value of women's football, and that's fine. I'm all for that kind of accounting measure. But at the end of the day, you know, people's livelihoods are sustained by pounds in the bank, not the account, fiddling the accounts. It's not that it's fiddling, but you know what I mean, adjusting the accounts for to make a business viable. So there's got to be a balance of all of those things, I think.
I just want to touch, and Suzy, you come in, or Rich and DM, you can come back in. I mean, something that you said, growth and adding to the cups and showing that it's worthy, you know. And it's something that we've even discussed, haven't we, in the Women's Football Fan Collective, growing the leagues, having more games you play, more revenue comes in. And then, like what DM says, having it as, you know, for me, I still think 20 quid is reasonable, you know, reasonable price. I mean, I know a lot of women's football is you get it for 7 quid, but then we've seen like sort of Durham and Coventry, they've gone sort of that other way and said 60 quid season ticket. And I think to be fair, that's sort of the way that you want to go. You do want it as that much, you know. Coventry, I know they're just thingy, but they wanted the money in, and that's how much a season ticket is. And I feel like, well, these girls were getting paid professionally. That's how much it should be. And I mean, it's great as a fan, as trying to grow it. You know, we've got 40 quid at Man United. I know Chelsea have got 40 quid, but then they've getting all that money from the Premier League team. So I just want to touch on not just about FA Cup, but, you know, do you fit? Well, I feel like a lot of people feel it is the time now for like league growth and stuff, and, you know, more cup money. I'm not sure even if the Conti Cup has a big prize fund. I don't even think they've got any prize funds, and that's another thing that we're looking at. How can we ask, you know, us to pay all these competitions? That's a great thing about English football, but, you know, there has to be that pot at the end. There has to be something that we're doing it for. So, Suzy, I just want to bring you in just on what you've heard from the other two and just your thoughts.
Yes, I think one of the interesting things for me is that the FA Cup, in many ways, presents as you guys have sort of outlined, it really presents an opportunity. Partly because it is managed by the FA, they're a not-for-profit body. You know, they have a power to do something special with it. But it's a competition that has, particularly on the men's side, lost its identity quite a bit. And, you know, there's always, every single year, there's always that talk about, you know, does the magic of the cup still exist? What's the worth of the FA Cup? You know, it's there every single year. And there's an opportunity to sort of re-input some of the magic in the cup and reinvent it. And, you know, every year we have that conversation, and then there's a game, there's a giant up against a minnow on the men's side that makes you think, oh yeah, the magic of the cup is still alive, blah, blah. But it's just, you know, a foregone conclusion that, you know, if you get a very rare upset, that team's going out in the next round, it's great. They get a little bit of money in terms of gate receipts or whatever if they then get a home an away fixture or something like that, you know, in the next round and stuff, and it's good for them for a very short period. Might mean they get some new changing rooms or something, but the reality is that it's the same bunch of teams in the competition at the end, you know, regardless of whether you get a hint that one of the lower league teams might make it through. And that that's the FA Cup losing its soul, right? The beauty of it is that anyone can beat anyone can win that cup from bottom to top, and the reality is very different, and there's an opportunity to reverse that. You could, with the prize money, and to be using that competition to be saying, you know, we want to develop grassroots football, we want to develop lower league, non-league, amateur football, and really using that to boost that level of the game, and that becoming the identity of the cup. And it, similarly on the women's side, you could do the same. And obviously on the women's side, it has a completely different effect in that, you know, the kind of money you're talking about would be completely transformatory across the league as a whole, across all of the leagues as a whole. And so I just feel like, you know, yes, I agree that ticket prices and things like that, you know, yes, they should have a value, should be put on the game, and it shouldn't be devalued or undervalued. I also think there is room for, you know, free tickets for school kids and stuff here and there. For me, the biggest issue around that is how they market these games. And I don't think, I think the problem that the FA has with marketing games is it doesn't really know how to do it. It has a very much if we tweet about it, it'll be, that's how you get fans along. Whereas really you need a real activist mindset of going into communities, going door to door. When I was a kid, Arsenal women leafleted, the team itself leafleted my council estate. I'm not saying we get players doing that nowadays, but the team leafleted my council estate asking people to come and watch their game. And that, for me, is the biggest issue with getting people to games and getting them to take it seriously is the FA don't really know how to build it. And so I don't necessarily care about the ticket prices and all that kind of stuff that much, but I feel like something really radical and revolutionary, redrawing the identity of the FA Cup and what it means as a competition, is the exciting part. You know, that's where you could really fundamentally change it. You change the identity of the FA Cup, suddenly you've got people buying into it, believing in it in a way that they haven't done for a very, very long time. And that could like filter across men's and women's and be really, really great. But obviously, you know, the thing is you have to be realistic about it as well, in that, you know, it's the FA, and, you know, it's to a large extent run by dinosaurs. Though on the women's side, I think there are some, there probably are on the men's side too, but I know the women's side, there are some like extremely good people who genuinely care about the women's game working in the FA, but it's a machine. The machine as a whole doesn't really work. And so then you're talking about, well, what small changes can we make that help us push in that direction and stuff as well. But for me, fundamentally is like, I just want people, when I say people, I mean like the FA, people running football, to think bigger about the potential of the game and what it means and why it exists. Like, that's just what I want to see. I want to see people think about what the hell the point of football is. And for me, the governing body, the one that is like making all decisions, but also is, like we've all said, a not-for-profit body that should be doing things for the, like, it's football for all, right? That's what they say. But yet they don't implement that when push comes to shove. I just wanted to grow a pair and just deal, you know, just like be really radical and revolutionary with the competitions that they're in charge of.
I just want to say one thing, and I'm going to bring Rich in. And just from listening to what everyone said, it just makes me think it's just like the men's game. And I know that's what a lot of people don't want, but that's what it's turning into. You touched on, Suzy, about it's the same pot of teams and all this. And I think about in the men's game, that's what the focus is: Champions League. And now I'm seeing with the WSL, I'm even looking at my team. We're on the verge of, you know, a cup final, and people are not even bothered. They're just like, let's get that Champions League. So that's where the draw is there. You know, the draw maybe isn't in the FA Cup, but for a Sunderland, for a Bristol, for a Clapton, for a Watford, like you say, re-energising it, like you said, that's what you need. Because Man United, obviously we need to win a trophy, but it is what it is. Europe. For every big team, Europe. It's the fight between City and United for Europe. That's what everyone talks about, but no one really cares about this. Not in a, you know, but that's what it's like in the men's game. Oh, we've got FA Cup now. Forget about Premier League. Oh, we've got FA Cup now. Forget about WSL. You know, it's not that, you know, it's as if people don't care about the FA Cup as much. But yeah, go on, Rich. I know you had a point about something. I just had to say that.
This is going to shock anyone who's listening to this back. I'm not going to praise them. I'm going to point out that Newcastle United, who are tier 4, the Women's National League Division 1, have moved their FA Cup 4th round fixture to the 10,000 capacity home of Newcastle Falcons Rugby Club, away from, because usually I think they kind of play at park level. Basically, looking at the pictures of their games, they've moved it to a proper stadium. They're promoting it in a way that, dare I say, Sunderland rarely do around women's football fixtures. And we amongst the RokerReport lot have been very conscious since the Saudi takeover that it makes perfect, logical marketing, public relations sense for Newcastle United to try and make themselves the premier women's football side in the northeast of England. Sunderland have always traditionally had that position since 2000, when we merged with the Kestrels and kind of took on their great side. And we had, you know, your young England superstars and your Mel Rays and Jen O'Neills and people like that came over from there. We've always traditionally kind of taken Geordie girls in and made them red and white. But the way that Amanda Staveley is going on, and the way that they are getting their fan base and their army of paid bots behind the women's team is quite something to see. Just looking at social media engagement around Newcastle United's women's team in the last few weeks has gone from them getting on an average tweet, getting half a dozen or a dozen likes to 300, 400,000, and then 1,000 likes in a way that a big name in women's football like Sunderland just don't get. And they've got all of their, state-sponsored resources that they can put behind this. We know that they want to kind of pink wash and rainbow wash their brand to refresh their kind of image in the world as not somewhere that represses women and LGBT people. It's a really cheap and easy way for them to do it. They throw 5 million quid at this in the next couple of years. They'll be in the WSL. And they've got 5 million quid to throw around. So in some ways it's terrifying, but what's interesting is that they're using the platform of the FA Cup, of being in the fourth round of the FA Cup and being in the same kind of pool of teams as Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Sunderland, the established names, Bristol, the established names in women's football, to kind of jump the queue in terms of the marketing and to get a big crowd in, because they'll get a decent crowd in. They'll probably get, I would expect they'll get more than we get for any normal game because they're marketing it. And just to go back, the reason I wanted to originally come in was like talking about like leafleting estates and stuff, and like the all around promotion of the games. It really frustrated me earlier this year when we had the game at the Stadium of Light, the Lionesses game at the Stadium of Light, that there wasn't one advert on the back of a bus or a billboard up in town. There wasn't leaflets handed out at the Stadium of Light on some match days when you got tens of thousands of people there. There was, in the week running up to it, a kind of a blitz of a marketing drive where the local paper did something. I'm not saying it was because I wrote a really angry article on RokerReport, but there seemed to be a lot of activity after that article went out and absolutely nothing before it. I'm sure it was a coincidence. I'm sure they had it all planned, but the club and England actually did the best part of nothing for what was actually the only competitive home fixture in England's qualifying campaign against Austria. Everything else has been like 10, 15, 20-0. And, against Austria, it was an actual competitive game of football. All right, the wind spoiled it, but they weren't to know there was a storm coming in that sense, a month out. So just all round in my city, in my region, it's changing, and you can see it and feel it in the air that Newcastle are gonna make moves. And when they restructure the league, maybe we'll come on to the restructuring and getting more games and expanding the leagues. But when they do, Newcastle, Leeds, Southampton will want to be there, I'm sure. So, yeah.
I just wanted to make one point. It is interesting because, they are going to do it. And I think then we can come on to a whole different topic about why they're doing it, sports washing and all that. I just want to talk about just generally about just like Premier League teams are now wanting to do it. Burnley are putting a lot more emphasis on it. Like you say, Southampton have always sort of been interested. But like you say, when that restructuring does come about, I think they will. And I feel like, I speak to Rich Laverty, who comes on the show a lot, and I feel like, I sort of said the way I want to see it is a bit of, try not control, but like, financial fair play, spend what you earn, do that kind of way. But I feel like it's too far gone now. And I do feel like it is going to be, they can't really say to Newcastle now, whatever reason they're doing it, you can't do it, because then they'll say Man United did it, West Ham did it, Man City did it, you're letting these ones do it. So, if they do want to put 5 million, I don't think that anyone's going to stand in their way. And in a way, I'm not saying they should stand in their way, but I feel like we need energy, we need that. And if they're getting 1,000 likes, and if people are now more interested in women's football through Newcastle, listen, what they do, what the owners, that's, for me, separate. I just want people interested in women's football. That's my take. Because I was a person who liked vanilla ice cream, like what Suzy says, and now I like chocolate, and now I don't even look at vanilla. So there is people like me. So go on, Dan.
Yeah, it's just about this weekend at Bristol, because it was the launch of the Her Game 2 partnership. And I've been a little bit cynical, or I haven't quite understood the point of Her Game 2 to women's football, just because it was a campaign that was started in relation to the men's game, a kind of anti-sexist campaign for female football fans of men's football. And I think there was the assumption that it would map synergetically onto women's football, and I just couldn't really, and I could see the people in the campaign struggling to articulate what their relevance was. However, this weekend we had 956 people at the Robbins High Performance Centre, which is about 500 people more than has been at our games for the whole of the season, which are still quite healthy attendances for the championship in actual fact. And I think about 200 of those tickets were complimentary tickets. But I just think that the biggest thing that Her Game 2 can do for women's football is actually to drive the audiences to women's games, because they've got a fantastic, sorry about the dog, a fantastic marketing. They're actually brilliant at marketing. They are absolutely, incredible at marketing and reaching people, and it's something that really resonates. So I think if they could, if I don't know, I was thinking about the women's football collective, the women's football fan collective, if we could try to partner with Her Game 2 to produce a set of fixtures for just to promote and market the fact that there's women's games happening on the weekend. I think their kind of profile and their influence could make a difference, because it made a difference this weekend, and I think there was a discernible difference. So I think that's something organically within the women's game or within football, among football supporters, that can hopefully give audiences to women's football more of a boost. So I'm going to try and continue to talk to Leah, who's the main person that I know from that campaign. Obviously it was started by Bristol City fans. So that was the one thing I was thinking. It's sort of a slightly more positive observation about how these kinds of campaigns can actually make a difference.
What we've done, sorry, just to jump in, I'll not hog any more, but we in RokerReport obviously got a big audience about men's football, and when we really start to ramp up the women's coverage at the beginning of the season, entering the championship, we partnered with Lucy Ford, who's the other founder, the Bristol Rovers fan, and partnered with Her Game 2. So we have a Her Game 2 advert on all of our website content, all of our podcasts are in association with Her Game 2 about the women's game in particular. And that wasn't to kind of compartmentalize it. That was to say this is what has been for 10 years, essentially, other than the odd article, a men's football blog and podcast. And that we are, we're three blokes and a couple of women who are talking about and writing about women's football. And it's something that that I heard someone from Lewis talking about. It's actually about exposing men to women's football and kind of showing the privilege that men's football has, demonstrating it, putting it right in front of people's faces. And I mean, I experienced this today in some ways. I experienced it quite a lot. We've had people say, stop writing about women's football. We don't want to see it on this website. I'm an editor of that website. I get to decide what goes on, but we don't want to see this on your website or on your Twitter account or on your Facebook page. It almost triggers people to see stuff about women's football, and women's football being put alongside on the main website alongside men's football. I mean, I think we could do a lot more as well as fan media, but the partnership with Her Game 2, in some senses, kind of keeps our feet to the fire on it. We have to live up to it in that sense, that we will include women inside our fan media as well, because I think that's really important that we promote. And I mean, I'm constantly thinking, why can't we get more women writing about football? And that maybe is a whole other conversation. Maybe Suzy has a view on that. I don't know.
Well, I've got a view on it because I mean, we run this channel and it's me and 4 guys, and you know, even if I look at the supporters club, there's a lot of guys that are there's equal-ish, but you know, even contributors on here. I know DMs come on, but you know, as Man United, so it's something that's I think probably across a lot of things. I mean, Suzy will know more, but I was with DM. I thought it was more about abuse that women received at men's game. I thought, how can it be about the women's game? Is it just about women who want to watch football? And even like you just said, Rich, for me, it's about exposing everyone to it, because I know women who say I don't like women's football, and I think, well, how do you know you like it unless you go? I was someone who didn't like it. Like I said, I was vanilla ice cream all the way, and then chocolate ice cream came out. A man actually said, "Let's go and watch," and that's how I'm here and today and love it more and more. And then, but that's how I suppose the Barmy Army has grown, because I love vanilla ice cream, but I love everything associated it. I love the rivalry. I love the songs. And like you said at the start, DM, you don't even hear a lot of songs. And I remember when we came in, we started singing songs, and it was, we don't do that here. Well, we do it now, you know, and I'm excited for the no if, no buts. Everyone's on it. All our WhatsApp groups that I'm in, everyone's excited to sing it. We'll be singing it on the coach, getting ready, preparing ourselves for when we're in Bridgewater. So, you know, and that's the other thing. I'm upset that I know Bridgewater, you know, probably can't, but, you know, I'm upset that there's not going to be, you know, it's this weekend, it's not going to be shown as much. And, you know, maybe 1 or 2 games will get shown, but that's another thing. FA Cup, the magic and all that kind of stuff. Surely, you know, BBC always bang on about it. It's Man United, it's Bridgewater. To me, that's magic. Yeah, 2,500. That's magic. So, you know, I mean, this could go on for ages about everything that we want to see change, but I'm encouraging everyone to get involved in a women's fan collective, even if it's just talking, even if it's, you know, get Sunderland fans getting more involved. I don't know, but just men just getting more involved as well, you know. And DM, I saw you wanted to talk, and Suzy, you know, just your thoughts on what you're hearing.
Suzy, you go. I've rambled on a bit.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say on the Women's Football Fan Collective, like, I think the way it sprung up is really brilliant, and like the motivations behind setting it up, the like dynamism of it, the activism of you guys in setting it up, and the others as well involved is really, really brilliant. The only question I would have is, like, obviously we've got the FSA, which is a brilliant fan resource, and on how these two things can complement each other. Obviously, you know, I can sort of see myself, you know, why you would want something new, and that is a little bit more direct, in that you can respond very, very quickly to stuff. You can put out stuff that, you know, maybe the FSA can't always say because it's quite an official body. But, you know, I think also important that the Football Fan Collective has a relationship with that body, has like the most amazing wealth of experience and knowledge on activism within football generally. That is great as well. So that would be my only, not question, but like, just like, it's really brilliant. I like very supportive of fan activism generally, and like everything it represents. And I love the statement today and all of that. But just, yeah, the relationship I think is important as well, because that also has a wealth of knowledge around fan activism that is the history of fan movements, and history helps you with your future.
Totally agree. And obviously one of the first things we did was meet with Debs, who's the Women's Fan Network coordinator. And obviously I'm wearing like several hats. I do have different football activist hats. So in one of the hats that I wear, it's on the FSA network. But at the same, I do feel like the FSA's mode of activism, the way in which it can make things happen, there are compromises because there's bureaucratic compromises, institutional compromises, and there's also the problem of, you know, the fact it's tethered to the men's game, and the interest of the women's game is so kind of imbricated with the men's game. And I think the value of the Women's Football Fan Collective as an autonomous group for now is that its focus is purely on women's football, and, you know, is passionately is able to articulate the needs and the desires of women's football's fans clearly. You know, probably not for the first time, because it's never for the first time. But I think that is important, and I think you need, you know, we live in a democracy. And social movements never succeed by one strategy alone. You need multiple strategies. You need people whittling away on different levels. You need people coming in and getting the people talking about things and changing feelings, changing perspectives. It's vital. So I think, and one of the things that we said, you know, initially with Debs, is the hope to collaborate around points of convergence where it is possible to, you know, strategically align, is to do that. It's not about opposition, you know, it is about partnership. We all want the best for women's football. It's just, you know, we can't wait until, sometimes you just can't wait until somebody says it's okay to make a demand. Sometimes you just need to make a demand, and sometimes you need to say stop. Sometimes you need to say no ifs, no buts. We want this thing. We want the, you know, the utopia. We want the ideal. We want the vision. We want to articulate a vision of fairness, equality, and it's really important that, you know, people do that and have the capacity to do that, and to, you know, come together to say that, and that there's that those perspectives are given oxygen. They're given, you know, they're signal boosted. You know, I love the FSA. I think it's a fantastic, you know, organisation, and, you know, obviously Deb Stillworth is an absolute legend. So, and doing an incredible job organising people. So, yeah, just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I can echo that as well, because like literally when Paul and I first kind of started a little WhatsApp group with a few other reporters, the first thing I did was get in touch with my contact at the FSA through the Red and White Army Sports Trust, because I'm a rep for the fan media for RokerReport on our sports trust, Sunderland, and kind of helped to kind of create the conversation that got it set up last year. So I'm absolutely on board with like the official kind of democratic representative FSA based fan activism. Completely get it, and it's achieved an amazing thing in the fan-led review. We've got to keep that going on as well, and get the women's review going before the legislation goes through Parliament around IREF, because it needs to be included in that. That's another thing altogether. But like what we can do with the Women's Fan Collective is, yeah, definitely complement, and there will be points where we come together with them, but like we can present things in a different way as well. Like we can be like cheeky, like when the owners of or the then owners of Coventry were tweeting over Christmas about their hand washing products, for example, we were able to take the water out of that ridiculous bit of Twitter activity, and we're able to kind of like use memes, and we're able to tweet at midnight when something happens. We're able to kind of join in with what's going on in the game itself, you know, when there's something interesting happening in a Man City Arsenal game, like everyone getting yellow cards, for example. You have a yellow card, you have a yellow card. We're able to like just kind of maybe get a new audience. That the FSA is great, but it's people who can sit in meetings for a few hours, and not everyone wants to sit in meetings.
And have very particular diplomatic skills, and that's
exactly.
It's not necessarily how I want to spend my spare time. If I'm paid to do that, I can do it just about, but if I'm not getting paid, I need to be a bit more creative.
Yeah, like Suzy knows I'm not diplomatic. That's the whole thing about this. That's the whole thing about Orphean. I think when the Coventry broke, it actually broke out of a lot of people watching the the video of me, Rich and Reese, and sitting down and talking and saying, holy crap, what's going on at Cov? And then we did more videos and more talking and more retweeting. And then that fundraiser was started, and we're pushing, tweeting, demanding things. I mean, I've seen with this, with DM's press release today, boom, get it out to everyone. I'm in everyone's DMs, every media person I know, boom, 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 answering questions. And that's, I suppose it works quick, isn't it? You know, we want something out, we want to do this, we want to sing this song, you know, and I want people to join in. And that's always what I've been. I've just been that one person who stood up and sung on my own. And then next minute there's a whole merry gang of us. But, you know, be that one person, stand up, sing, just sing it.
I'm going to be that person at Birmingham on Sunday. And my son is going to be so embarrassed. He's going to move to the other side of the stand, I'm sure. But I'm going to be the person standing up amongst the away fans and singing no ifs, no buts. We want an equal FA Cup, definitely.
Nat couldn't even finish her chant. She's left to get on the train to Bridgewater already.
She has. I think we're still recording as well. But it's been, I really enjoyed this conversation.
It's been good.
Yeah, and it's nice to meet you both, really.
Yes.
Obviously, I've read loads of your stuff, Suzy, over the years, and obviously DM, we've been messaging each other and on and off for weeks, months. So it's nice to kind of put faces to names.
Yeah, and excited for your book as well. Congratulations on your book coming out.
Oh, cheers! It's been the bane of my life for 2 years. I hated every minute of writing it.
That's the good stuff, isn't it? Well, come to Bristol, and do an event, and we'll talk about it.
I'm definitely up for that. Like, I'm up for doing quite a lot. I think it's out just before the Euros, so it's nice timing.
And I don't know, a couple of authors of like football books, if they've